Betty
and Ruby. Tragedy hits the small town of Walkerton, Ontario, May 20th, 2000, which contains just less than 5,000 people. It saw almost half its people ill from E. coli contamination in its water supply. This contamination occurred when a large storm hit and runoff water from a large local farm got into the water supply. This E. coli contamination caused 7 deaths and people to fall ill with bloody diarrhea.
Now live in Walkerton with Liv and Maddie.
Live from Walkerton with Liv
and Maddie. Walkerton's local Public Utilities Commission took their routine sample of water supply and it came back with signs of contamination.
With this information, they did not report to local health officials. This is the responsibility a company has to protect the safety of its citizens.
Companies have certain responsibilities when their product or service puts people in harm's way.
In this case, it was the company's responsibility to warn citizens right away so they did not continue drinking the contaminated water, which the company did when finally people were ill enough and it raised enough suspicion.
In such a situation, the government also has responsibilities.
Ontario Premier Mike Harris visited Walkerton and stated, "We have a great tragedy here." But most of his comments were blaming the previous NDP party.
The company had to make certain choices, even before the event occurred. They had known that the location of water was vulnerable to contamination. Knowing this, they chose to do nothing about it.
The second choice they had was either telling the people of Walkerton right away when they got the results back, or decide to not tell them and keep it a secret.
And keeping it a secret was exactly what they did. They chose to keep the information hidden from the public, and by doing so, it caused 7 people their lives.
The company gave a $2,000 compensation to those who fell ill and the loved ones of those who lost their lives and died. This compensation was just a small sum next to the fear the citizens had when the event occurred.
Here's Taylor with Walkerton's local, Grace, who's agreed to share her experience from the time of the contamination.
If you don't mind me asking, can you please describe to me how you felt when you heard the news of the E. coli contamination?
Before hearing it on the news, I've been having bloody diarrhea, and I went to the hospital. When I found out that there was E. coli contamination in our water supply, I immediately thought back to all the times that I washed my hands, took a shower, and used the water to cook.
Now, 13 years later, do you have any concerns?
I was fortunate that I didn't have any long-term effects from it, but still to this day, I feel that it might come back again, or it might happen again.
Thank you for your time. Now, back to Betty and Ruby in the station.
As you can see, companies have an impact on the community when such a tragedy strikes. You are led to believe that the water is safe and clean, but since this tragedy, the image of the businesses who filter and test the water have been damaged.
Yet another issue with the Walkerton Public Utilities Commission was that neither manager Frank Coble and water foreman Stan Coble had any formal training in their position.
Stan and Frank Coble denied any wrongdoing and firmly held that the water at Walkerton was safe to drink.
However, as the tragedy grew, the two eventually became part of a criminal investigation into the tragedy. Both eventually pleaded guilty to a charge of common nuisance through a plea of bargain, in which they admitted to falsifying reports, and Frank admitted to drinking on the job as there was a beer fridge on the site.
Thank you for tuning in. This has been Betty
and Ruby
on Channel 11.
We're out.